bring this to your attention. Obviously, you're aware of my situation, and I just want to just first introduce you again to Mark Hamilton Taylor. I believe he's passed on some correspondence to yourself and various other bodies, and it seems to be that we're getting a lot of pushback. Firstly, I want to say that I've gave him full permission, responsibility, signed declaration to act on my behalf for my best interests. He's been working with me for a significant period of time now in uncovering quite a lot of failings that went on with my trial, and a lot of other things that I'll go into detail. And the purpose of this call is that I want to raise a meeting with what I'm going to discuss and open up to you about here. I want to raise a meeting with yourself and if you can as well, your boss. But firstly, I just want to go into it's about professional standards department's dealings with myself and what's led to what we believe has been some form of cover-up. And I don't use them words lightly because you know and you're aware of how I like to operate and the integrity that I had and the respect I had at Bedworth Police Station and the jobs I've worked on yourself with. But going back to the first incident, the first dealing with professional standards where police officer PC Mandit was arrested for assaulting a young lad on Christmas Eve, and I was the only officer there to have my body-worn camera on. And that young lad that he alleged to have assaulted ended up being the son of one of our colleagues. And I was put in an incredibly difficult situation where, because I was the only one that did my job properly, I was asked to give evidence at Walsall Magistrates Court. But before that, I'd gave a statement, and Marcus Franklin and Victoria Betts had actually pushed for me to alter my statement. And then at court again, they pushed for me to think about my account. And it was well known and amused that I fell apart on the stand because I was absolutely annihilated by the prosecution solicitor, which was I was on working on behalf of the prosecution. So I felt like because I didn't defend a colleague, because I didn't believe his actions were right and formed our standards and the way I'd operate, I felt like this was the start of what was to become later. And then, you know, I want to move on to the fact that when I was suspended, the meeting that I had was with Marcus Franklin, I think Victoria Betts was there, not 100%, my inspector at the time, and Dave Ruddy, but there was no federation representative. And to me, that this will lead on, and you'll see what I mean as I move forward with what I'm saying. But, you know, Steve Martin was aware of everything that was going on. So when I first got introduced to Beth Jenkins via an incident in 2020, I was told that I was never to be sent to her again because she attempted to make malicious allegations and everything. And then we moved, you know, I took a career break to look after my son because I was going to quit because nobody was supporting me and I was struggling with my mental health. And on the very first day back, because I come back early because Ethan had settled into his school, and I was promised the support from the police, from occupational health, and from line managers, that I come back early. And the very first day I was sent to a child death, which was Beth Jenkins. Well, I didn't know until I was there that it was her because her address had changed. I relayed it through all the right chains of command that I shouldn't be there. I paid her the duty and the respect to go out of the house when she turned back up. And then, you know, she made malicious allegations again in the alleged conduct of myself at the property, which I acted in the most professional manner I think an officer that was put under that pressure could act. And then when that didn't go her way, she then brought criminal allegations against me, which, you know, were completely out of the blue. And I've had conversations with Steve Martin where the day I was suspended, that was a Wednesday, I believe, and then the Thursday he was due to finalise the misconduct side of it because there was absolutely nothing to go forward with. And then after that, it was Mark sent you the documents, and I've got significant paperwork alluding to the fact that when professional standards were made aware of the allegations that Beth brought forward of a criminal nature, they didn't stop there like I was led to believe. Professional standards then take a backseat while CID take over. It's actually become apparent that Victoria Betts went out and initiated the investigation of the criminal matters and actually took first disclosure and statements from Beth Jenkins that we found that have since been altered, since been changed. And this is just the tip of it. I'll move on to to my arrest, and I think it was Emma Mackey and her colleagues arrested me. On arrest, I mean, there's a number of issues that are raised with the conduct. Firstly, in the house, the comments they made about my son's, the state of my son's room, who's autistic, and I was also on the school run, not had a chance to tidy up from his outburst before the school run, and they made derogatory comments. No body-worn camera was activated during or after or before they arrested me. When this was raised with Emma Mackey, she said that the officer that was supposed to be recording, his body-worn camera weren't working. And the reason I say that is because I raised the issue with Sergeant Mackey of the comments made, which were told to me by my housemate that they didn't think we were friends. He's actually one of my best and closest friends, but they thought he was me at the time. And the comments that they made to him, tongue in cheek, were absolutely, disrespectful. It upset him because he played a massive part in Ethan's life. But when I raised this as a complaint and to professional standards, nothing was done about it. And I didn't realise at the time it was actually Sergeant Mackey that had made the comments and who I'd reported it to, thinking she was the investigating officer. I wasn't aware that she actually was the one at the house that made the comments. And then I moved forward to after my arrest. I promise this will make sense if we get a chance to talk properly. But after my arrest, Emma Mackey then went to my sister's house. She took a statement from my sister which identified clear safeguarding issues with Beth Jenkins threatening my sister. Not only did this raise safeguarding issues, but it also built a picture of Beth's agenda with myself. And it was only a couple of weeks ago that Mark's managed to get all of the unused material that's been hidden from me and from the trial, where Emma Mackey had evidenced these messages and hid her statement in the unused. Not only would that have helped my defence, but it's also shown that there was no impartiality in this investigation, which is one of the major concerns that I want to raise with yourself. And I would like, at the end of this, for you to lead a formal investigation of how my investigation was handled. But then I move on to, whilst that was going on, Emma Mackey had also been to my parents' house with a colleague and asked my mother some questions, investigative questions around the investigation, which were critical to my defence, where she was asking what I was in when I was in the army, what I used to get up to as a child, and nowhere were these questions recorded. There was clear evidence that they reviewed. The male officer with Sergeant Mackey noted my involvement in the army, which stated clear dates that could have been used as lines of inquiry to help with my defence. Again, this was covered up. Unless you find something that we haven't, there's no record of that meeting in pocket notebook entries, storm logs, Athena records, crime reports, where they visited my sister or my parents and took statements. This leads on to the fact that my defence was never put forward as part of reasonable lines of inquiries. This, on review, has been the most one-sided investigation that I've ever seen. And Mark has reached out, and we've got independent expert witnesses that have reviewed the extent. There's thousands of pages of documents that have been reviewed, and they come to the same conclusion. So all I'm asking is that you review them and give them the same judiction that everybody else has given. And then I'll move on from that part to the next part, where when I was arrested, I was informed that I was provided a solicitor by the Federation. This was told to me on the point of arrest, and whilst I was being conveyed, that I had nothing to worry about. A solicitor had been provided by the Federation, and an interview I wouldn't have to wait long for an interview, basically. And that followed on for the whole of my trial, and conversations with Steve Martin, that I've now had a chat with him, and I do believe that he's no ill party of this. He was misled like I was. He's reached out to me, and we've cleared a few things up, and he was never made aware of the severity of this case. And as a serving police officer that not only pays into the Federation and pays into the insurance, etc., I was misinformed that I was given a significant legal team with the support that I needed, with knowing that the mental health side of it as well that I was going through, the difficulties with my son that's clearly regulated, and the contact that I've had with this individual before. At no point was the Federation even made aware, and this is a massive failing on myself, and could have again gave me much better advice. But not only that, it's been proven that Reed solicitors have utilised this, told me, misled me all the way, that they were claiming money off my insurance. We've got the paperwork that says that they got the funding off ARC Insurance. So at no point was I under the impression that the Federation weren't involved. I just thought, and kept getting told, to minimise my contact with Warwickshire Police because they were out to get me. And that was from my legal team, Reed Solicitors. So I was put in an incredibly difficult position whilst dealing with my autistic son, who, it was clear before he passed away that while he was with me during this time, he made an incredible, I don't know what the word is, his behaviour in his school had improved tenfold. And it was only my incarceration that put a detrimental end to that. As you're aware, he's passed away. And that's, another thing that's come out of that, but that's for another day. But Sergeant Ruddy, who was my duty of care officer, I raised these concerns with him, and he couldn't believe, what was going on, because then we moved from the point of bad representation to the fact that professional standards then leaked my details to the press, and what followed from that is an absolute annihilation by the press of charges that I've not even had. I don't even think I've been charged at the first one. I'll clarify that when we have the meeting. But the press, the BBC and the police put out a narrative that wasn't even remotely like what I was being accused of. It was read out and caused distress to people that I know, my family and everything, that I was a police officer that had gone on to commit these heinous crimes to children. And that straight away then led on to an unfair representation. And then that leads on to the fact that I asked and was told that I wouldn't be sent to a trial in Warwickshire, and I shouldn't have been investigated by my own force, because I believe that I was set up to fail. How can my own force investigate me and get a result which was the truth, that none of this happened? Because it didn't fit the narrative of Warwickshire Police's failings with other sexual offences against women and children, which is a known HMIC improvement point, but I was absolutely annihilated. So how this could ever amount to a fair trial, I'll never know, and that's something that we're taking on. But I'm not asking for you to look into the appeal side of it. I'm just asking you to look into the criminal side of it and the way it's been handled. And this ain't just an ask; it's a plea. You know me, and you know the person I am better than most of the people that have judged me. But them people on the jury, some of them were West Midlands police officers, but most of them were picked from Warwickshire, would have seen all of that was put out wrongfully. Innocent till proven guilty was not the case in my case. It was guilty till proven innocent. But they would have had a preconceived idea of something that I weren't and something that the allegations weren't. So that's something else I need you to have a look at. You know, Dave Ruddy was absolutely horrified when the stuff like that was put out and didn't agree with it. But people are scared of PSD, and once PSD get involved, everybody wants to wash their hands of it. There's hundreds and hundreds of pages of unused material, statements that have been altered, signatures on victim statements that have been altered and changed that we can put in front of you. And I hope it only goes to being put in front of you, and you do me right and do the public right, because this is a public interest matter, and we have lines after this if it's not dealt with properly that it will become a public interest matter. I don't want to go down that. I want to give Warwickshire Police the chance to redeem the errors of some of the officers that have led to this situation. It might be a case of they weren't trained enough to deal with it, or the severity of it, but the investigation that I've now seen, that I never got a chance to see before the trial, is absolutely horrendous. How it got to CPS, I'll never know, because of the errors that are there. I don't want to believe that this is a cover-up and I've been made a scapegoat. I want to believe that this is just an error and it can be amended and put right. I've lost my son at the end of the day because of this. He was incarcerated, and everybody, since I've been incarcerated, everybody knew how much he meant to me and how much I cared and put the time I put in for him. And as soon as I went away, after begging for help, begging for intervention to save him, I just got laughed at, and unfortunately he's no longer with me because people didn't listen. It's gone beyond maintaining my innocence. I know I'm innocent, and everybody that I need to know knows I'm innocent, but it's about getting the results and doing what's right, which is what we joined the police for. Why I took that oath was to protect vulnerable people from harm. I've not been protected, my son's not been protected, and while stuff like this goes on, other people are going to be not protected. And you served that same oath, and from the dealings I've had with you, I'm putting my faith in you because I know what you were about, and I know the hard work and the reputation you were building when I worked with you. So I want this to be took seriously. I want the documents to be read, and I want you to get back to me. There's probably stuff that I've missed off. I'm aware that I just want to get the point across at the moment, but I want you to either liaise with myself or Mark, take the stuff that we've took seriously, and at least give me, the respect and open an investigation and listening to what I've said. To sum it all up, Warwickshire Police should never have investigated me. That's a massive conflict of interest, and that's, one of the grounds that we're going down for my appeal. But they haven't investigated me fairly. They've hidden a whole load of evidence, not just a little bit of evidence. They've hid hundreds of pages of evidence. There's statements that have been hidden. This could not have been made to look more one-sided if you tried. And PSD and professional standards before your time were aware of these individuals and the fact that they've done this before and they've attempted to I'm just asking for you to do right and do the job that we need to do. Um, but yeah, I'll conclude there because I'll end up going off on 100 tangents. But I can't emphasise enough, Paul, that I'm pleading with you to give this some due diligence. You know, that's the least my son deserves, and that's the least I deserve, is for you to just give this a bit of time, and then please get back to Mark, or find a way of getting in touch with myself. I'm at HMP Millsike at the moment in North or South Yorkshire, and can we have a more formal chat about this, and a more professional chat, and hopefully we can get somewhere, and we can right some wrongs that need to be wrong, and rebuild the respect that should be there for the force. And yeah, I'll leave it there for now.